There was no, I'm gasping for air, my heart stopped, I can't breathe. I knew something was up because I instinctively leaned against the shower wall. Um, but I was just out. But I was facing myself and I'm like, oh, well, I just died. I knew what was happening and I watched myself slide down, hit my head on the marble. My eyes opened while I was intubated. And my daughter was like, yes. And Apple says, honey, she's not back. That's just her body reacting. It's just moving, mechanically. My daughter loves to take pictures of eyes. And she said, Mom, when you open your eyes, they were not your eyes. They were
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
So I was a vessel. I was a
Yeah.
vessel and God takes you out. So you're not feeling the pain like that here.
So I want to welcome everybody back to another episode of The Soul Inspired. Today we have Kristen Numen with us. She has had a near-death experience. She's also had multiple spiritual like experiences that we're going to talk about that could resemble a near-death experience. So we'll talk through that. But thank you so much, Kristen, for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. So great to be here, Joe. Thank you.
As I said before, it's nice to be able to just sit down and have a general overall conversation about the experience that happened to you and how it affected your entire life. I'd like to get, deep into that. I usually start the same way. And if we can find out a little bit, now I don't know if your experience was at childhood or adulthood, but we'll get to that. But I like to go back to childhood first and just
Mhm.
get a little bit of information of who Kristen was as a little girl, whether there was religions involved, just a little backstory. You don't have to get too detailed if you don't want to, but just some information on who you were.
Yeah, yeah. So, normal, typical childhood, born 1979, and I had a great childhood, very loving, fun, a lot of friendships. My biggest thing that stood out though is bullying. I was bullied by someone very close to me growing up. So I didn't, I learned not to trust myself, not being good enough, that type of thing. And a lot of people will say those shadow patterns will repeat itself. So I've had that repeat in some friendships, in a work environment, that type of thing. But very happy life. I really didn't trust myself. I didn't have the confidence. I was always the seem like the glass half full person, but it was like, okay, I'm going to expect the worst. And if something better happens, then wonderful. That's really how I was, but I would always have the smile on. So I felt like I couldn't be myself just because of the way one of my family members was very loving, but I was like her little Barbie doll, basically. So I feel like I couldn't be anything, change anything up and all of that. But very happy life. My husband and I met each other, high school sweethearts, had our daughter young, married young. So, had her when I was 22 and, happy life. I've had some spiritual experiences. I never thought I was spiritual, and then the guides brought back certain things. I knew when my grandmother passed, she came to me in a dream, different experiences that I've had, that kind of stuff. um, but pretty normal, happy childhood.
Oh, that's good. So basic childhood, but with bullying as a forefront or in some of those
Yes.
relationships that you had to kind of deal with.
Yes.
I like how you
Mhm.
mentioned the shadow relationships. Like it is interesting how sometimes we can have like certain relationships as a child, and then as we get older, they come up again and they come up again. And it takes until we actually like kind of come at it head on. And there's different things
Mhm.
that we can do to try to move past those relationships that we no longer need. So
Yes.
I'm assuming you've probably been working on that through your life, and
Yes.
that's a good thing. But I know exactly what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about, and so you started a family young. Um,
Mhm.
so that's great. That's great. So you had kind of a typical childhood. Was there religion involved in your life at all at any time?
I was raised Catholic. I had communion and confirmation. It wasn't heavily forced, but it was something that we did because it's something that you do, right? So it was never we must go to church and all of that, but I it never vibed with me. I always felt uncomfortable. I could never remember things. Like so I always had to study for any, religious testing because it didn't seem right and I thought something was wrong with me,
Mm.
that I didn't understand it. So my awakening really brought so much more forward of understanding and understanding why, because they'll put images in my mind and just different things that have happened in life, like this is why, this is why, this is why. And it's like, I
Mhm.
get it, I get it.
One of the things I always like to say, well, I would make like to say it now to my audience, just to be clear, when I ask the question to people about their religious upbringing, it's not really to put down any type of religion. It's to see if there was any impact or any
Right.
resemblance with the NDE, right? So some people could
Hmm.
be consider themselves religious, spiritual. I've talked to people who grew up in like a Buddhist community. Some people grew up in Christianity or Catholicism, that type of stuff. So just to see if there's
Right.
like kind of an influence amongst what
Hmm.
happened. But leading up to when the main event, the near-death experience, can you kind of bring us to where you were in your life at that time? Like what age you were, what was kind of going on?
So I was 44 years old. So this was only a couple years ago. It was November 3rd, 2023 was my near-death experience. It is my husband's birthday. Um, I had awakened 9 years ago. So I was already intuitive, psychic, medium, doing all of those things. Um, when I had my near death experience. The interesting thing is, when I do my classes and everything, I had a lot of my students and a lot of friends message me and say, Kristen, you've talked about, I feel like I'm going to have a near death experience. I've always talked about, I'm going to die early. I've said that to people. And then on October 30th, 2023, I woke up early in the morning. You know, when you're in that hypnagogic state as you're falling asleep and hypnopompic state as you're just waking up in the morning. And that's like the sweet spot of hearing your name and seeing things, all of that. And in that state, I heard a male say a really long something to me that I still don't remember. And then there was a female, and she just said, it's happening, it's time. And that was October 30th, 2023. So, and my friend, one of my best friends, she messaged me. She goes, Kristen, and I totally forgot about that. She sent me the snapshot of when I told her when that happened. So, then November 3rd, I had my NDE. And again, my husband is he's up and out. He's in construction, owns his own business, busy. Our daughter, she was still in college at the time. She had classes, so she wasn't supposed to be home either. So I was supposed to be totally alone. I was having a class that morning, and I actually felt wonderful because I do have heart problems. I've had them for 20 something years. That's gotten progressively worse. So I have electrical issues with my heart. Plumbing is perfect.
Okay.
So, yeah, so I felt wonderful that morning. And my husband, he'll normally maybe play his game or something like that, or go in the other room when he's off. He sat in the room. I had the door open to the shower, and he was just sitting there reading. Dogs were on the bed. So the dogs actually reacted to something happening to me. And he said, whatever happened, you got the dog's attention. And that's when he looked over and I was on the floor. So in the shower, like someone just switched something off in my head.
Wow.
It's, yeah, there was no moment to there was no worry. There was no, I'm gasping for air. My heart stopped. I can't breathe. I knew something was up because I instinctively leaned against the shower wall. Um, but I was just out. I was out, came out of my crown, the top of my head, faced myself. I knew exactly what was happening. So when you're doing this spiritual work, monks will say, I think it's Tibetan monks say that doing this kind of work actually prepares you for when you do pass because you're aware of it,
Hmm.
where others may not be aware of it and you're going through certain other things so they can acclimate you in spirit basically as to what's going on. But I was facing myself and I'm like, oh well, I just died. I knew what was happening and I watched myself slide down, hit my head on the marble. I saw myself turn purple. I saw my daughter's face because she's steadfast, like my husband. Very focused, not reactive, just I got to do what I got to do. But Ray said, no, you turn blue first, then purple. So I had splotches of memory of my physical body, but I couldn't see myself clearly. It was kind of hazy
Okay.
that I saw myself. Um, so I saw myself turn purple. I could see my daughter's face. And then I like zoomed in to the ambulance, and that's when they were starting to intubate me. I could see like the different things they were putting down my throat, but I couldn't see clearly, but I knew. And when I met the paramedics, I remembered one of the names of the men that were there, and it was like I remember them saying that name. I remember them saying Kristen, Kristen. So I was talking to them, and they said that's exactly what happened. We keep talking to you, saying your name. Can you hear us? We're doing this. We're doing that. And then that's when I was gone and went totally to the other side.
Okay, let's we'll take a brief second for that, and then we'll get to what happened when that happened. So, wow, thank you for sharing that moment. And wow, I've been doing this for a while, and it's each experience that's explained, although very similar by
Hmm.
nature, the way people explain them, you always think that, okay, I've got it, I've heard them all, and then you get one, and it's like, whoa. And yours is you've triggered that in me, because in your instance, it happens so quick. And it wasn't due to like an accident. Some people will get into a car accident. In fact, some of those people will jump out and watch the car hit. Um,
Hmm.
they don't feel the impact. It's almost like they,
God takes you out. God takes you out. Your
yeah,
physical body might seem like it's hurting and having sensations, but God takes you out so you don't have that experience. But
yeah.
my heart, we don't know exactly what happened. I have a defibrillator now, so I'm constantly monitored,
Hmm.
but it was a perfect storm and my heart just stopped
Right. So you're one
while I
moment
was in the
in,
shower.
you're in the shower, you're having your regular day, getting ready for the day, and you're and one moment probably just thinking of the thing, and I always say to people, that's when my best thoughts come through with sound, with music too, is in the shower. Like your mind kind of like,
Yes,
you're just in
the
that moment,
water. Yep.
right? You're in that moment. And that's probably why it's a little bit hazy too, because when you're in a shower or you're in a place that's kind of at ease, um, you're not really paying a lot of attention to your thoughts. It's just kind of happening, right? You're just kind of like in there doing your thing. So it's probably hard to know exactly what you were thinking about before it happened, but you're
Oh, I
saying,
know. I was
what?
saying my prayers
Oh,
because
you were.
shower water is very all of the elements, right? But the shower is definitely okay, don't laugh at me. I call them potty epiphanies. A lot
Right,
of times
right.
when you're in the bathroom or you're in the
Yeah.
shower, it's the water. And that's when spirit will communicate and all of that. So I always say my prayers in the morning, you're cleansing your body physically, but spiritually as well, cleansing and
Hmm.
protecting my energy. So I had my conditioner in my hair because I let it sit in my hair. So the conditioner was marinating in my hair, and I turned and faced the shower and I was washing my face and I say prayers as I'm washing my face. So as I was saying the prayers, that's when
Oh,
something happened, and that's when I leaned up against the wall. Just I just did it. I you know what, thinking about it now, because your body is a vessel. And I've had certain things happen after my NDE, which is why I'm excited to be on your podcast too, that have been very profound, a Kundalini awakening. And you'll have spontaneous movements. And I honestly feel that it was a movement by spirit pushing me against the wall.
mm.
Like it wasn't me doing it, it was mechanical. Like something was in my body moving me. It's the weirdest feeling. And that's like what it felt like.
Kind of like a puppeteer with a puppet.
Yes, because we're a vessel. We are a vessel because spirit can come through. You can feel, hear, know things, all of those psychic gifts, right?
Hmm.
And I've had animal communication, spirit communication, communication from guides, and they'll do different things to your body to let you know the person has problems with our digestive system. I had an animal actually give me a profound pain in my leg because before they passed, they had a catheter put in, and they could feel that go in, so
Oh,
I could feel the pain in my right knee, and it was the dog's right knee, just different. So we are a vessel. And I've had with the Kundalini awakening that happened just months ago, spontaneous movements, maybe hand mudras, my mouth opening, weird stuff. Like they
mhm.
can take over your body because we're a vessel.
Mm. And I think just even those conversations, yes, some people might hear that and think, what on earth? But the other thing we have to realize, these are probably very likely things that will be more common in years to come
Oh yeah.
as the veil thins, as we get closer to understanding who we really are truly. You start to see kind of
Yes.
these ancient things kind of starting to come up. I've done so much research on this stuff, so even you're saying these things, and it's you know other things that I've heard are flooding through that I've heard about. So I even have a good friend who does body work, and they lay them on a table and they start to kind of like just put their hand above, and you see their body jolting up, and you're just like,
Yes.
what is this? Because it's all new to me too. It's a real thing though. I mean, people keep going back to her, and it's a healing, whether she's inviting in something to move their bodies. I don't know. I'm not
Yeah.
invested enough in that part of it to understand it. But
Hmm.
it's interesting to hear that. You said though that so you had more of a you're in the shower, you have more of a general practice that you do then it sounds like, which is also good, like the prayers
Hmm.
and and these things. So you're doing that as your normal thing. Your conditioner's sitting there and snap, you're out of your body. You're looking at it. You said it was hazy, almost
Hmm.
like seeing hazy glass, almost like if you were looking through like smoky glass or something. Is that what you mean when it was hazy?
You know, when you're driving and you see the horizon or something in front of you and it's hot and you see that haze? So you
Yes.
can see, but it's muffled. That's
Mm.
how I knew it was me. I could see it was me, but I was hazy. I was blurry.
Mm.
But I was fully aware that that was me. And
Because
you know, I was mad at that because I said, did anyone take a picture of me? Because I was intubated for an entire day. So it was like 8 something in the morning. This happened to me, and I didn't wake up until I think the following early morning. So I was intubated and unresponsive that whole time. So I was agitated. Why couldn't I see my body? Because I had, and I still do, I have such a disassociation with this real, like this happened. And the
yeah.
only way I really know it is because I woke up in the hospital, I had the pain, I have a defibrillator, all these different things. You can feel the after effects. But my lesson was you're not your body.
Right.
You're not your body. And this is, remember how I said I was bullied and I cared a whole heck of a lot about what everybody else thinks? This is my individual experience. And you are welcome to your own opinions and everything else. This happened to me. You're not in my shoes. I'm not in yours. We have our own experiences, and this is mine. This
Mm.
totally happened. And it was profound and amazing. And it it's like I never want to forget the feeling of it.
Mm.
I never want to get the forget the feeling of it and be able to describe it because I was upset. Why didn't I see myself? And my husband's like, "No, we didn't take pictures." Like that's the last thing we wanted to remember was that.
Right.
So, um, but I
So,
could see like certain things, but just hazy.
so you wanted verification of seeing yourself in that, like, so that you could kind of verify the two. Is that what you mean? You wanted to kind of,
Yes,
yeah.
because I didn't constantly watch NDEs. It was of interest to me, but something always had maybe a slight fear. I think because I always knew I was going to die young. I've always known it. I felt it in my being. But a lot of people see themselves, and when you can see yourself, to me, it's like, okay, I'm out of body and I'm in spirit, and I'm seeing myself that it happened. So I'm still 2 years later and I'm still mind blown
Mm-hmm.
by it all. Like that happened. I was intubated for a full, like that happened. My heart stopped. I died, like it's still wow to me. And every day I go in that shower.
Yeah.
Every day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's no, I'm not sad. Sometimes I am. Because it will come back. Not sad. The experience was unbelievable to me. I had a beautiful experience. It's hard because of what happened to my family having to go through that. So I get torn between I had this amazing experience. It was beautiful, and my poor family went through hell with all
Right.
of that, basically, because my husband had to do constant chest compressions.
Mm,
So if my daughter wasn't home, he would have had to stop that call, put animals in a room because we have three dogs and two cats. So our daughter was home to be able to take care of all of that and open doors and have everything so they can just come right in and start working on me. So when he would stop giving me chest compressions, I would start turning colors again.
wow.
So everything is divine when we come in, our birth date, and when we pass, and when we have an NDE, and everything is perfect. Everything is perfect.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is this is still because because this only happened, and we're going to dig into what actually happened on the neck,
Hmm.
as things progress, but this is still in its infancy. And I say that because I
Yes.
talk to people who've, they're 75 years old and they come on to finally tell their NDE and they had it when they were 8 and they're now talking about it. So what I mean
Right.
is you're talking about it very early, and it's probably because you had the more spiritual sense of yourself was or a little bit earlier on, and
Right.
it probably gave you that drive to, okay, I'm going to speak on this because a lot of people, when these type of things happen, they keep it it's very personal, right? Because
Hmm.
number one, they now know they exist beyond this. So it's not like they need to uh, explain it for self clout or some kind of ego boost of I'm special or anything. It's nothing to do with that.
Right.
They already now know, and they're watching people around them and going, oh, wow, they're all unaware that this is actually what we are. So there's that, and then they don't know what they're gonna be treated like and all these things. But so my point is uh this is still new to you, and there could be things that
Hmm.
come online for you in many years to come that even now you don't recall. And I say that only because it happens to many people I talk to, and they're shocked by that because it's a different kind of memory or something. It feels different, right? That's the way that they explain it. It doesn't feel like a
Yes.
dream. It doesn't feel like this, but it's kind of a combination of everything. Uh, so
Yes, I didn't remember everything right away. And you want to know what's interesting because I wasn't planning on telling my experience. And I actually didn't give it any thought. And then weeks after, when I was meditating, my guide said, you're going to be asked to speak about your experience. Say yes.
mm,
No matter who messages you, say yes. Don't look them up, say yes. So when I was on other podcasts, I had no idea who these people were. I didn't know how big of a following they had. And if I did, I would have been like, oh, no, 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 because I would have been petrified.
right.
But I said yes. And then I hermited. And
Mhm.
that's when more profound stuff even happened after that. Because in my NDE, I had said, oh, I'm coming back and we're going to make it amazing. And I now know what my spirit meant by
Oh wow. Well,
that.
let's dig in. Let's dig in a little bit. So
Yeah.
you're on the ambulance when the main leaving happened. Is this or am I wrong? Did I miss that? Did I mishear that?
Yes, I was um, in the ambulance. My husband and daughter were in the truck, and my husband had said, the chief walked over to him and said, "Okay, we got her heart started." And he goes, "When I heard that, it was the realization of, oh my God, she died. Like her heart stopped." So we don't know exactly how long it took them, the paramedics, 6 minutes to get to us. So it was probably about 10 minutes where my heart had stopped. My husband kept me alive by
Wow.
doing chest compressions. But once I was stable, because they wait till you're stable, then they were able to transport me. So he was like, her heart's beating. We intubated her, so we're helping her breathe and everything. So that's when they were able to transport me. And I
Okay.
wasn't I wasn't there for any of that.
Did you know the moment you had left? Like, did you see any of that commotion going on, or were you completely somewhere else? How did that
I was
transpire?
totally somewhere else. All I saw was in the ambulance, like the white of like the tubes and the different things that they were putting down my throat. I could just see the blur of that. And that was it. Then I was gone.
Okay. So as soon as that
Yes.
was happening, you went from this world, this physical, I always call it a meat suit. the world
It's
of
the meat suit.
the world
Yeah.
of the or I've kind of started to become a little more techie with it because you look at like video games and things like that. I'm like, we're kind of
Yeah.
in our like Sims or like our avatar.
Our
Um,
avatar. That's, yeah, it's our
it's like a
avatar.
higher technology Sims, and
Yeah.
we turn the game off and the game, and then you go back to wherever that is. And
We're from.
yeah.
Hmm.
And what did that look like? Let's get a little bit of that breakdown on that if we could.
I immediately was with Source, or what a lot of us call God. I went immediately to Source. I know it was God. My higher self was like behind me. My higher self, I had an experience with that. She's a seraphim, and was like behind me. And Source is masculine and feminine together. Um, when you look at one of my friends posted the most gorgeous picture. She's in California. And it hit me all of a sudden because when you have an experience like this, certain things hit you throughout your normal days that you have to cope with and everything. And she posted this gorgeous picture of a sunset. And it's that warm yellow that's almost turning into that orange. That was what Source looked like.
Mm.
Huge sun that you're able to look at.
Yeah,
There
right.
was no, you're cringing. It's a feeling of a body, but I was just awareness. You feel like your head is looking down and looking, but it's just your awareness that's being brought everywhere. But I was with God, I was with Source. And it was a conversation of, you did amazing. Oh my gosh, how wonderful you did. And we had the conversation, and I remember saying, Kristen always felt less than, because she felt I am very childlike. I'm goofy, I'm silly, all that kind of stuff. And I always thought it was a fault or a downfall. And God goes, that's me. That's me, because the childlike whimsy of that's Source. Source is that childlike unconditional love. There is nothing that you do in this life where you think that you are not loved and that you need to be I need to be forgiven before I enter heaven. You enter heaven. You enter that realm, and you are totally enveloped with the love of Source and all of those beings. It is us that need to get over the fact
Mm.
that this is what I learned. We're so hard on ourselves. When I first lifted up, it was the feeling of one of my mentors. Before I even said anything to anyone, I had several friends in the spiritual community message me and say, "Can I talk with you? I saw something." And I was able to validate that. And my mentor said, "I saw you like dancing." And I said, "I was swirling around because you're not in a body." And it's like, whoa, this is fun. But it's more than that. There's no heaviness of jealousy, anger, anxiety, fear, worry. That is gone. You
Mm.
are just, oh my gosh, we put a lot on ourselves to make us heavy. It's not just the body that's heavy, it's the emotions we carry that are heavy. So she saw that, and then a couple of other instances that happened with that. But it was this whole conversation with Source, and seeing who I call God as this big, huge ball of light with it's telepathic. You're back and forth telepathically, and being told that I did a great job when I didn't think I was anything special, but
Wow.
I did amazing. And
That's
that's what I want everyone to know, because you might think that you're not smart enough, good enough, whatever, enough. You are so much more than you realize. And you are so beyond loved and so beyond accepted. And when you get to that point, when it is your time, you'll really see how unbelievably loved and supported and amazing you are.
wow. That's
And I
amazing.
never want to
Yeah.
forget that.
And the feeling it brings a lot of emotion to you, right? And it's like
Oh, yeah.
I've thought about this before. just a quick question as before we continue with that is that many people, when they go to the other side, they talk about this love that is permeating. It's so strong that it's you can't even compare it to love here as
Right.
much as you love your children, as much as you love your husband or wife or whatever. It's like it's a different it's a different
It's
form or it's like
different.
right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, and they'll say things like and negative feelings are kind of gone. And then I go, what about sadness? Because sadness comes to me. I like I watch you and I don't see sadness with you. It's a different I don't know what emotion you're showing, but I have had that emotion, right? It's like a longing emotion of home and
Yes,
pure
it was
pure yeah.
home. It
So
was
that
home.
so is that emotion present there that you're having right now? Is that like
Yes.
blissful, like crying isn't doesn't mean negative, right? It can
Oh
mean
no, crying doesn't mean negative.
right.
To be so loved and to remembering it, there's no human words that can fully encompass the joy, the unconditional love, the emotion, the amazingness, the
Mm,
magic of that moment. And I was in bliss for November, December, January, for like 4 months. I was in bliss. Now, my husband loves Batman, he always has.
nice.
And I would just be sitting there and we're in the car and I'm looking out and I'm smiling. And he goes, "Why do you look like you want to kill Batman?" Because I would just be like, I'm like, "I'm happy, you jerk."
Right. Well,
So it was
he's
just
in a different place. He hasn't experienced
yes,
this
he would
feeling.
tease me.
Yeah.
We're very sarcastic people and goofy and joking. And he's like, "Why do you want to look like you kill Batman?" But I was just, and even when I woke up, I was like, just total bliss,
Mm,
just total bliss of remembering that. And then after the 4 months, the energies of being, the ego's the veil,
hmm.
the ego's the veil.
Yeah.
And that's when it starts coming back, and it's like, am I not worthy enough to see my body? And I'm like, oh my goodness, Kristen. But it was more of an awareness of we're two beings. We're this all-knowing, beautiful spirit. For those that know Harry Potter, it's like we're the Horcruxes of Source. We're a fragment of Source.
Hmm.
Everyone is. Bloop, and you're just fragmented out having all of these experiences, and then you go back and then you discuss it. And
You're in God's presence in this spherical ball of energy,
Mhm.
whatever we want to call it. First of all, you hear that from this plane of existence, you think, okay, what is that? Like you got a sphere. It doesn't sound very exciting. And I know I know that sounds bizarre because but
Yeah,
we're looking, in my brain right away, I think of just seeing like a movie with a sphere of energy or
a
something. But
bouncy ball of
right,
light. Yeah, it
right.
just
But
sounds
when
unimpressive.
yeah, but when you're in that mode, I'm sure it almost makes this look completely dull. I would
Mhm.
assume.
Yeah.
And is that basically what continued until you came back, or was there anything else that happened beyond that?
Oh, the whole lot happened.
Okay.
A whole lot happened. So once I was with Source, um, it was a after I was having a conversation with Source, it was my life review. And a life review is different for everybody. So the way Kristen functions, because I had someone say to me, because I only saw positive, joyful things that I did. And someone said, "Oh, you must be such a good person." Not, it was more uplifting for Kristen's soul to see these because I'm not just watching myself, I'm experiencing what others are experiencing from my interaction with them. And it's all around you. It's everywhere and
Yeah.
you're reliving it, but you're reliving it from the other person's perspective. And it was all joyful moments, sweet moments, funny moments, how I made the other person feel. And that's what I brought back with me. And that's why they showed me that. So when I actually do pass, I'm sure I'm going to have those other ones of other experiences, that type of thing. But I remember my life review. I remember how the other person felt when I did a small gesture
Mhm.
of, "You look beautiful today. I love that color on you." because they could be in a really dark place, and just saying that brings them that light. It does so much to the other person. I was a baby giving my mom a buttercup, one of those little flowers, and I could feel the immense love she had for me.
Mm.
Just and I remember that. So I bring that back. So all I wanted to do when I came back is like I had ordered my mom flowers for an occasion, and I was like, a kid, did she get it yet? Did she get it? Let me check the status. Did she get it yet? Like I couldn't wait till she got these flowers because I picked them just for her, and I love to garden, so it was like my thing. Or just little things. When I make my husband laugh and he has this hearty laugh, it makes me laugh. So when you're making someone laugh, it's just the joy and everything that fills up in them. I made them feel that way, and I just want to do more of that for the rest of my life.
Wow. And I can see that you would feel that way immediately because now you have this experience that tells you the implications of your actions and
Yes,
how what it feels like to make someone feel really good
in their point of view,
in their
in
point
their
of view.
perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that fascinating because so many people are living their life without knowing the impact they're making and they're choosing poorly, unfortunately. Um, if if it's too bad people wouldn't know that, what that would feel like. Not that I'm wishing everyone has an NDE, but my point is that if everyone knew, the impact they're making, it could change so many of those. And it's interesting because I've always felt like that myself without the NDE. I don't know, call me an old soul, or I don't know what that is, but I remember as a kid, I've said this on numerous podcasts, I'd be in school and I'd see bullying going on and I'd get so upset. I'd go, why are they treating each other like that? Like what? I wasn't even being bullied. I very rarely got bullied, but I'd watch this and then I'd go defend the person being bullied, or I'd say, hey, like, and I was kind of part of the cooler crowd. So they were like, Joe, what? Like, why are you defending this? Right. And so,
Mhm.
but I came in with that. I came in with that.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that means. Who knows? Maybe I had an NDE when I was born or something. Maybe I'll figure it out when I'm 70, but
That's a
it's
true empath, because an empath is one that feels emotions, and a clairsentient it feelings. And
right.
you have that clairsentient empath ability where you can feel what the other person's feeling. So you don't
Yes.
have to have an NDE. We have all of these gifts and remembrances, and you
Mm.
remember that, and you can feel what they're feeling, and your heart went out because you could feel what they're feeling.
So likely a good indication to people out there that, is to work on your awakening. I don't want to call it spiritual. I don't like put labels out there but work
Yeah.
on your abilities
And
and
it sounds woo-woo, but
yeah.
I call it living paranormally because
Yeah.
it's really very normal to be woo-woo and paranormal. And
Yeah.
I honestly live this way every single day. I'm always in communication with my guides. I play with my guides. It makes life way more magical when you're doing laundry and scooping dog poop outside
I
to communicate, It just brings that more fun and whimsical aspect into life.
love that.
And you're amazing. Everyone's amazing at what they can do. You think you can't? I was a banker for 15 years. I thought I was very generic. Not, I'm smart. I'm not super smart. All these, I just never thought highly of myself.
Mm,
And we all have these beautiful gifts and everything else. Discover what yours are because everyone is amazing. What is your amazing?
mm,
And lean into that, regardless of what anyone stinking thinks. This is your life. Be your amazing, regardless of anybody else. It's been the most freedom I've had coming back from my NDE. Because if when I eat tacos or ribs, man, tacos, I could eat Mexican food all the live long day, but I would be embarrassed if it dribbled down my mouth or something. Now I'm like, giving you a show. You're welcome. Just get and have a
mm.
napkin handy. It's always a joke where my husband has
Right.
one napkin and I have like 20. So I would always be, you know, I don't care anymore. It just gives you that much more freedom with this
Right.
experience too.
Yeah, and that's that ego again, right? You're worried about
That's the
what
ego.
people will
Yes.
think if I look like this or whatever, right? And you have to, yeah, the more you can let go of that, you live a much more enriched life, and in the beginning it's a little uncomfortable, I think, and then you kind of work through that, and then eventually go, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
this is so much better. So you are, so you have the experience with Source, you have the life review.
Mhm.
How did it shift back to you coming back? And I want to know a little bit also about these experiences that started to kind of trail off, after. I want to kind of get,
Yes.
if you can give us a little info on how that all transpired, because I understand,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit of how the NDE ended. And then,
Yeah.
yeah.
So after I had my life review, I had a choice. I was actually very upset at the fact because I didn't remember at first that I had a choice whether to come back or not. And I don't know why that upset me, but I had a choice and I said, oh, I'm going back. When the other thing that happened when I was with Source was I looked like the sun. One of my friends said to me, Kristen, I saw you look like the sun with all of these rays of light. So all of a sudden, these rays of light didn't come from me, they came from outside to me. They were prayers from everybody
Ah.
else. I could look down and all I could hear is people screaming, yelling, crying, Chris, Chrissy, all of my nicknames that everyone would call me, Chris, Chrissy, Kristen, crying, all and God said, you can look at the ray of light and go to that person like that. So I have had dreams and I'll wake up and be like, oh my gosh. And I'll have snippets of remembering things. Like I could see my husband's knuckles be so white because he was gripping so tightly on the bar next to me, but I couldn't see. They never show me his face. And my mom says, you don't want to see it. They never show me my husband's face.
Hmm.
But I could go to people. But then I had the life review. Then I went to where everybody is. It's like this welcoming area. And all of my family, everyone I've ever channeled, animals I've had, they were all there. Right in the front, you would think it would be, my great aunt Lillian and Uncle Ray, who I like have such a connection with. No, right in front was one of my friends who's a psychic medium as well. It was her son that had passed away at 18 years old several years ago. So I channel Trent often for her. So I knew him in that communication. So when I got there, Trent was right in the front and he smiled, but he didn't smile with his teeth. He smirked, and one side was higher than the other with his smile. And we embraced.
Hmm.
Remember that.
Okay.
Then I saw Jesus, and Jesus put his hand on my heart because it was like full bodied how I was seeing everybody there. And he put his hand on my heart and he said, you are, I am, you are, we are
Hmm.
all one. I actually had it made into a bracelet, meaning everyone is interconnected, everyone is together. But I saw everybody, every animal I channeled, but that was the most profound moment. And it was like I don't remember conversations with my own family, but I remember it with Jesus and with Trent, but I saw everybody. And then when it was like, yes, Kristen's coming back, we're going back. And I went to what I would say is the Akashic records, the Hall of Learning of Wisdom. It was it to me, because everyone perceives differently, was this huge, gorgeous library. The ceilings were huge. Over on this right side, because I was facing the tables in front of me, I had two lighted beings here, which I now know who they are. My higher self was here, that I know is here, but it's not like I turned and looked at her. But we were at this table, huge windows, and it had like one black pane going down and then across. And I saw planets out there. Interestingly enough, way after, a year or so, 8 months or so after my NDE, They told me the planets. There were three planets. Do you know that I have a trine in my chart in astrology, and those are the three planets?
Oh, wow.
And I'm not an astrologer. I'm
Yeah.
working on certification for it. So I actually was telling my friend, she goes, Kristen, you have a trine in your chart. She told me with those three planets. So I was sitting there, and again, for those that are Harry Potter fans, the Marauders map. The map moves. You can see people. That's the only way I can describe it because it was a lot of blues on the map. And I could see this map, and it was a timeline, and I was in charge. I was doing it. It wasn't like they were sitting there and I was saying yes, no, maybe, whatever. I was totally in charge, and they were like, okay, and what do you want us to do? And blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, she's coming back and it's going to be amazing. We're going to make this amazing. And I was like, well, what's the amazing? I guess that's cheating if I knew, right? But when from that point, it was like, okay, I'm back. And my husband said, Kristen, when you said in spirit, all right, let's go. And the way I describe it is boom, I was back. Okay, I was done with what I was doing. I love you. I'll see you soon. Boom, I was back. And Ray said, my husband, I just popped right up and I was like, hey, like, hi. And I still had conditioner in my hair, so I had this weirdo, Dr. Susie curly Q on the side of my head. And my mom said I had this childlike look. She goes, just like when you were a kid, you were just happy, not a care in the world. And I could not remember beyond seconds, maybe 30 seconds or especially a minute. So I'd keep forgetting because I was intubated still. So I couldn't speak and I didn't understand. So what I kind of remember, and with them telling me when they took everything out and I could speak, I would forget constantly what happened. And I'm like, what? Why am I here? And they said, look down, and they wrote, you fell in the shower. You fell in the shower and you hit your head because I had staples in my head.
Uh-huh.
But I looked at my husband and I said, you fell in the shower. Are you okay? And my husband goes, you're in bed. So they had to change it. So they crossed out the U to the I. I fell in the shower. And one of my really good friends came in, her and her husband, and Suzanne said, Kristen, now she's not into the woo-woo stuff. She's open to it. I've channeled for her before. Um, but her husband said, Kristen, what did you see? And she said, Kristen, you couldn't remember anything more than 30 seconds. She said, with unbelievable clarity, you talked about being with God and described source. And she's like, we were so dumbfounded. And then you went back to, why am I here?
Huh.
Why am I in this bed? And then after getting home, remember Trent, who I saw? Trent came to me and said, tell my mom you saw me. Tell my mom what happened and you saw me. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't know why I didn't want to do that. And then I messaged her and she goes, Kristen, I was in a prayer group praying for you. And Trent came to me and said, I was there with Kristen and I hugged her. And that's exactly what happened. And I said, he had this smirk. I said, his smile on one side was higher than the next. She goes, Kristen, that was how he smiled. That was his like signature smile. But you think it's so simple. I saw him smirk and smile, and he put his arms out, and we embraced. And she's like, I was told that. My friend said, Kristen, I saw you looking like the sun. That was when the prayers were coming to me. So my psychic friends were getting actual snippets of what happened to me, which validated what happened to me. And now I have goosebumps.
Mm.
So that was, I think it made it even more profound because I am awakened. And I have friends that do this, so they were able to tap in to see. Um, and I was just awake and I was happy. And then, my memory started to come back, but the people that were there originally, the really cool thing, my mom, um, when they were on their way, because they're 45-ish minutes away, my parents, and mom said, guides, please let me know Chrissy is going to be okay. And I call my mom my tree and I'm her apple because the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So mom said, just give me a sign, give me a sign. And mom goes, Kristen, do you know that there were no birds When we were driving, there were no birds. We're in Florida. She's like, "Can you show me birds? And can you give me signs that Chrissy's going to be okay?" She goes, "Do you know when we got to the hospital, all of these birds were just all over the place
Yeah.
by the hospital."
Mm.
Um, and then when they got in there, she goes, "I'm the head nurse. My name is Apollonia. My friends call me Apple." And my mom's like, she goes, "Kristen, I instantly knew you were going to be okay. No matter what I saw in there, you were going to be okay. My gut knew it.
Hmm.
Apollonia. My friends call me Apple." But I woke up and I was happy. I was joking. I remember being in that hospital and everything was funny. My chest hurt, and remember I said I'm sarcastic and we're goofy. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, my chest hurt." And I looked at my husband. I said, "Thanks for that," because he was doing chest compression.
Right, right.
So, my chest was sore and I had to do breathing things to work on my lungs and all of that. But everything was funny and joyful and
Yeah.
happy. Um,
I
and
was
that,
just
like I said, that lasted for like 4 months.
I was
The
just gonna
bliss.
say it probably was joyful and funny and blissful and light. Like when you're talking about it, I don't know if this is just, see, I can like pick up on it. I can feel all the feels, right? So it's
Hmm.
light because it's here that's heavy,
Yes.
right? And you're coming back and you're still light. Um, right? If that makes sense.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you
Like when
haven't
you're
had,
first born.
right. That's what I was seeing in my head is when you're first born. Yes,
Yeah.
babies come out crying, but they're coming out crying because they're trying to figure out what did I just do?
Yeah.
Why am I now
What?
breathing this weird feeling in? And like, there's all kinds of things I think going on, but you look at a baby and you can see it. They're, they're not really here yet. It takes a while for them to come online. Unless there's,
Yes.
physical ailments causing colic and things like that. But for the majority of babies that are healthy and just calm and they're in their own space for a while, right? And so
Hmm.
that's probably that's why it's like a reborn or like a reset. You come back and you're light. And even though all these people around you are probably, oh my God, and they're taking it so serious, you're just like, no, I'm good. I get this all the time. I get so many people who've come back, people are crying and they're up and they're like, no, like, hi,
I didn't
like,
even associate it with that. You're
yeah,
so right.
yeah. It's a lightness that you're
Yeah.
bringing back because you're not physically
Acclimated
you're not here
here
yet.
yet.
And then
Yeah.
over time, the ego reminds you who you are, what you look like, how you have to be pretty and not look like you have tacos streaming down your face and all these things start to happen. And then you're back in the memory of here. The way you described it too, it was like you came back and your spiritual memory was completely in alignment, but your physical memory was like, why am I here again? Like, but you had all the memory of the
Yeah.
other side. So yeah, I can understand why it was light because yes, it sounds like you decided to come back, obviously, with the choice
Hmm.
given, but at the same time, you probably would have been okay either way. Like I was fine over there, so it's cool. Like, but here I am, and
Yes.
is that kind of the feeling? Um,
I was told that I fulfilled my purpose, what I wanted to do in my lifetime here as Kristen.
okay.
And that's why I had the choice to stay. Um, I wasn't supposed to be here to begin with, wasn't supposed to be here. That's a whole other story. Um, but I decided I know if I was going to be a guide, and then I'm like, nope, I need to come in. So my mom had me later in life. I was supposed to be aborted, all these different things.
Mm,
Um, but the other thing that happened too, so I'm attuned to a couple of healing modalities. And then something happened to me a couple of years before my near death experience of this new healing modality. And I'm like, what is this? I don't understand. They're like, you will understand more as time comes. Just use the energy so you can get acclimated to it. So when I was about to come back, Source said, I need to attune your spirit to this energy called rainbow light cord healing. And this DNA double helix of energies went around my spiritual body. And I said to my husband, was there points where I would tremble or move? Um, And he said, yes, like I would move around like that type of thing because they had to work on my human body too. So I could hold the frequency of this new healing modality. So I don't know all of that. I kind of ask him in stages because it's still hard to talk about that kind of stuff. And I think the other thing that's interesting that I want to make sure I point out, because we talked about how this is a vessel, my eyes opened while I was intubated. And my daughter was like, yes. And Apple says, honey, she's not back. That's just her body reacting. It's just moving, mechanically. And you know how there's such depth. Your eyes look like the universe, the nebula. It's my eyes are not just brown, there's gold, there's yours, or like just embodies this gorgeous color. My daughter loves to take pictures of eyes. And she said, Mom, when you open your eyes, they were not your eyes. They were
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
So I was a vessel. I was a
Yeah.
vessel and God takes you out. So you're not feeling the pain like that here. And God takes you out. Just like a dog that I channeled that had passed and was hit by a car said, tell my mom God took me out before I was hit. So there
Right.
was no pain. The body will feel it, and you could be sad seeing the body feel the pain, but I was out. So I wanted to make sure that I said that too. But so that was that whole experience. And then I had a very spiritual experience in February about getting another dog. I had two dogs, I have two cats. Why do I need to get another dog? I saw an image of a dog in my mind. So now we have Olive. And so, and that was like a whole thing too. But when you're on the spiritual journey, everyone thinks that it's blissful. It can be, it is at times, but it's a roller coaster ride of emotions because we're here to feel and experience and navigate and to raise our frequency, right?
Mhm.
So we are not our emotions, we can become the observer of them. So I wound up, I've had periods where I wouldn't call it the dark night of the soul. I would have shadow sides and um low vibrational emotions where I was sad or upset or angry or something like that come up on the journey, but I always felt I navigated it well. Like, oh wow, look at me. I'm doing well with this. Let me help others navigate this. Well, I wound up being in such a pit of despair. I could channel for everybody else, but I'll be damned if could get any communication myself with my own guides. And I'm like, where are you? You feel alone and you feel shut off. Dark night of the soul. I had an experience nine, okay, I awakened 9 years ago. I want to say 5 or 6-ish years ago. I woke up in the morning and this huge man was standing with a long beard and he had a cloak on, a gray cloak, and I could see him with my physical eyes. And he went like this with his finger and he penetrated right about here is where his finger went digitized at my third eye. And ever since then, my clairvoyance, my seeing was always different. And I'm like, what did you do? What did you do? And I didn't understand. So finally, I wound up talking with one of my best friends, telling her what I've been feeling the past couple of months because I was just in a pit. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. And I expressed it to my husband, and he was very sweet. Let's go to the plant nursery. He tried everything he could. But I was just in this pit and I couldn't get out. And I always keep things to myself. And I wound up telling one of my best friends, who's also very spiritual, and she goes, why would you keep this to yourself? Let's figure this out. And she helped me come out of the dark night of the soul. Then all of a sudden, Merlin comes and he said, Kristen, I didn't turn you off. I turned on your inner sight, your inner standing. We always think that you awaken and it's like seeing, hearing, feeling, knowing, out there, out there, out there. When you really get into this journey, the guts of it, the fun part, the amazing part is what's in.
Mm.
And the inside folds outward because there's no difference between the in and the out. And then
Yeah.
I was feeling everything. Then I had a spontaneous, my Kundalini was starting to awaken. And I always thought, did I have a full Kundalini awakening? No, I wound up having a full Kundalini awakening. My mouth would open spontaneously. My hands would go into mudras. My body would jerk. Especially, I would never get pulsations up my back of my spine, like they say. It was always out my legs.
Hmm.
And just different. I had a divine feminine awakening and then something called the magenta flame, which I haven't talked about with anyone, which is the perfect balance of the divine masculine and feminine. That's the magenta flame. Because I was never strong with the divine masculine. I was always scared and afraid and action and moving forward. And the divine feminine, being in my sovereignty, feeling that power, having a softness, but also having firm boundaries. So it was these four other awakenings that happened after my near death experience that I would not trade for the world, that I want to help everybody with. Because the dark night of the soul is no joke. A Kundalini awakening is no joke. I'm very fortunate that, yes, I lost some friendships, but I had a deepening of my marriage, of my relationship with my daughter, my family. It allowed my light to shine authentically so I could attract those that vibe with me, the new
Mm.
friendships that I created, the new experiences. And I can feel now, I have to digest in my body because a lot of us are feelers. And when you're a feeler in that way, you're an empath, you're a feeler of emotion and energy. I can't make snap decisions because then I'll be like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I have to digest it and see how I feel because our whole body feels spirit in every way, shape, or form. This feels right. Okay, yes, I'll do this podcast with Joe because this
Yeah.
feels really good.
Yeah.
So I've learned to do that. And I'll say to people, okay, can I get back to you if I'm going to go out or something like that? And they're like, sure, because I need to digest it and make sure that it's something that I'm supposed to do or good for me or whatever. That has been just as mind blowing as everything else with the
Mhm.
NDE, honestly.
And the
Like I'm
and these would be after these are the after effects after something like that, right? And it
after the
yeah.
NDE, but I had to do the work.
Mhm.
I had to do the work. I had to look at it. I would journal. I would, people talk about grounding. My guides call it humaning. Do what you love to do, music, write, paint, garden, listen to music, move the body, exercise. All of these different things that I did to self care so I can acclimate to these new energies and frequencies that are happening within me. We're mind, body, spirit. And our spirit comes in, and man, we can be so high vibrational, but our body is feeling sick or those ascension symptoms, right? And our emotions can be all over the place because we're acclimating. Things are lower emotions are leaving, more stuff, more light is being housed in the being. So we're going through so many things. We have to ground. We have to practice a lot of self-care. The more you vibe and the more you're a feeler, human, ground, allow that energy to, you feel so much better. You can see the forest through the trees.
Right.
And then it was like channeling was I wasn't in that dark for myself anymore. The answers came right away. The synchronicities were I've seen with my physical eyes, I held a butterfly in my garden that died and then I watched it fly away. It died
Mhm.
and then I watched it fly away. And it was like, did I and I just say thank you now. I don't question my sanity. I don't question the things that I've seen.
Right.
I've seen galactics. I've seen angels. I communicate with them. There's no way I could know things I know. And we all can do this. Healings, all of that kind of stuff. Trust it, love it, be grateful for it. And more comes and more flows because we have to trust ourselves. Because when you trust yourself, you trust spirit. Because
Mhm.
we're I am, you are, we are.
I love all this. You remind me of a few people I've spoke with who've and I'm not promoting this because it's a tough thing to go through, but a few people who've gone through ayahuasca ceremonies, um, especially people who um weren't awake really in any way and decided that they couldn't figure it out on their own and they needed some guidance and help. So they'd
Mhm.
go in to the Amazon and they do this. And then you see the reaction, and they sound crazy the way that they're
Hmm.
talking. I'm not saying you sound crazy. I've
And I'm
talked to
totally okay with
I've
that.
talked to enough people that a lot of these conversations probably sound crazy to certain people, whatever crazy is.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes we have to question what has been crazy, because look at the world, the way that we've been living. I think that's more crazy, in my opinion. If you want to use the
Yes.
term crazy, we haven't
Yeah.
been living right. But I see people who do these ayahuasca things, and they go from one day they're, just going through it, and the next thing, they go, this isn't, this isn't like, at first it's almost like going through grief. Some of them go through
Yes.
this isn't real. This isn't real. This isn't what I thought was real isn't real. And oh my God,
Hmm.
it's beautiful and it's amazing. And oh my gosh, there's this other place, and there's this other, so they don't have the NDE, but possibly they do. I mean, from what I've heard, it can be a pretty, um,
Oh, it's profound.
it's
Yeah.
and
It's
it's a,
all
but
those
but it's
experiences.
physically, it's a difficult thing to put yourself through in ayahuasca and things like
Hmm.
that. So, um, that's why I'm saying, I mean, if it's a calling for someone, go do it, right? But if it's not, if it's just, there's
Yeah.
other ways to do this, and it can be in a slower progression. It doesn't have to be an NDE. You
Yes.
you have to start and build on
Yes.
it.
And
And
trust yourself
yeah.
too, because I always, when I was going through the dark night of the soul, I would be scared and I'm like, I need to have a reading from my mentor or the others people. And the one thing the guides would always say is go inside. Go. So I knew without a doubt I needed to go through this on my own. There's something I need to discover. But I've always asked, there are people doing ayahuasca and mushrooms and like all that kind of stuff. And I felt I needed that in order to progress. I've done none of that. All of this is on my own.
Right.
I have taken like a class as to how to develop, another class is, how to channel more. And honestly, everything else has been from spirit because this is our divine right. Whatever you're called for to do, you do intuitively and
Hmm.
that's your thing, but you don't need anything to do this, it's becoming your true self.
Hmm.
It's you're becoming your true self. Everything else falls away. Because I went through oh my gosh, I've been living a lie. Everything I was taught was wrong. And I don't want to say wrong in a bad way, but what a blessing because that's how Kristen learns. I need to go through it. And it's like, okay, if I can help other people on their path and journey to discover themselves too.
Hmm.
But everyone's path and journey is so different. Like you said, friends that did ayahuasca and you feel like you're crazy or going crazy. And then there's some things that happen to me like especially when I physically see things, I do this thing where I look away and I blink and I look back because I will see galactics and angels. I have seen portals in the sky with my physical eyes. My daughter has witnessed things because my husband and daughter are very clairvoyant naturally, where I'm not. Like if you close your eyes, can you picture an apple? That's not something I can do. So when I get something, I know it's spirit.
Hmm.
So I mean, life is way more magical than you think, but don't what Kristen used to do is I would hear other people and be like, that I have to experience that. No, experience spirit the way you experience spirit. I give my experiences so that you can see what can happen. Release any and all expectations as to what you think this journey is because I'm telling you, it is way more magical. Life is way more magical. You're way more magical when you release expectations too.
Wow. And I would say to anybody that, I always go down the skeptic trail at different times and say, there's a lot of people out there that talk about people who've used psychedelics and things like that. And that's what's causing
Mhm.
it. You're taking this psychedelic, it's releasing this DMT, or it's doing all this stuff. And yes, it could be. And that could be part of the experience and part of what's going on. But you just said it yourself. Everything we've talked about today in this last hour and a bit has been a natural occurrence for you. It's, yes, you
Yeah.
did have probably a heart related incident that stopped your physical body from uh, from being here, and maybe there are chemicals that go on within the body. I know that there is.
Mhm.
Um, I think our body does some pretty amazing things to give us
easier experience at times and a less
Hmm.
experience, easy experience at times. But um, in a general sense, how real when you were with God, when you were with the on the other side, and you were with your family, with your soul family, how real in comparison to you and I right now it is?
More real.
More real. It's different, hey?
It's different because the energies and everything, it feels more real to me because it's just the energies of the other beings and mine and just the vibration of everything. It's just so real. And I know, a lot of people will say, yeah, having an NDE in your brain will probably do chemicals to make it a more peaceful experience, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. And I totally understand that. The other thing is, I also am a channel. I was told things about myself because I always ask for validating evidence. You got to give me good stuff in order for me to give the message that you want. My higher self came to me and said, Kristen, you were going to be aborted. You were going to be aborted. You weren't meant to be here. Talk to your mom. And I was like, okay. So I called my mom and I said, Mom, my higher self just came to me and said that I was going to be aborted, that I was almost aborted. She goes, Kristen, how the heck could you know that? The only two
Wow.
people were my mom and my dad. She was sitting there. This is 1979. There's no cell phones. She was about to abort me. And my dad called and said, come home, keep the baby.
Wow.
And I was dumbfounded by that. And my mom always felt guilty. And I'm like, no, don't feel guilty. You do what you feel is the best that you can do at that time. Never have guilt for that. There's always a reason and a purpose for
Mm.
everything.
Hmm.
So I finally said, Azra is her name. Why did you tell me this? She goes, because I have a message for you and I need you to trust it. So she treated me like I work with my clients and my friends, and I needed to give you something you don't know in order to tell you the truth that I need you to trust, that I invite you to trust. And she said, you came here with your seraphim heart. That's why it beats at a higher frequency, because I have a very high rapid heart rate. So ventricular tachycardia, arrhythmia, and electrical issues. She says that is why when they go in and they ablate and do an EP study with ablation, it moves. So I wound up in June of 2023 having another ablation surgery because I was given the signs to have another surgery. And I've had this doctor for several years and I never had him do a surgery. And I came in with my husband and said, let's do it. And he was like, yes, okay, let's do it. And he was all excited. I was in there way longer than expected. He goes, I got it, I got it, I got it. And my husband goes, we will see. Because in a week, he goes, give it a week. It always comes back and it moves. And I have different symptoms and it gets worse. So I went back to him in a week and I was in an unbelievably bad episode and they had the all the nodes on, they did an EKG and he walked in and looked white as a ghost and he goes, "Kristen, it's back. It moved. It's not supposed to move." And that is exactly what Azra told me months even before I decided to do the surgery. And I said, why did I go through with this surgery if it's not going to do anything? It wasn't about me. It was about him realizing that there are people that have this and other people that are there too to be able to witness it.
Oh,
So it wasn't about me. I was the tool to be able to help them in
right.
understanding. And my higher self told me things. How would I know these things? And
Hmm.
then other people, like I knew when um, it was the EMTs and her sister. They're the only people that knew. And I said to her, boom, I dropped when I was channeling her sister that passed. And she looked at me and her eyes got big and she goes, I had to say to her, tell her that wasn't my body. That's my vessel. I wasn't in there. They dropped her body. And
Mm.
but she was had already passed and she carried with her the fact that her sister was dropped. And her sister, she's like, Kristen, no one knew. She goes, I couldn't even utter those words. So there's things when you channel, you will get validating evidence that there is no way of knowing. So that I have such a knowing within my being, seeing Trent, all of these different things, my friends seeing stuff, it's validation
Yeah.
of what we can do. I never do this for proof. Like it's not a circus act. It's very, very real. So it's like, don't come to me and say, okay, let me see what you can do, because it's not like that. You're dealing
Right.
with spirit. It's not like you're going to work and I'm balancing an ATM machine
Right.
where you know how to do it.
Right. Right. Right.
It's different. But
Mhm.
I'm telling you, everyone can do this. You can get so many answers. I found out really cool things about my family when I thought my family was boring. There's some cool stuff. So
Mhm.
like that can happen, and things that I've channeled. But we can all do this. Like you is feeling other people's energy and like all these different, it's just life is way more magical, way more amazing, but it is your experience. Don't worry about everybody else judging you, because
Yeah.
when you are laying there and you're taking your last breath, the last thing that you want is to go back and regret. I didn't do this because people were going to judge me. Really? Because the people that are going to judge you are not your people.
Mhm.
Vibrate how you vibe. Be your true, authentic self. Be goofy, be silly, be weird, be paranormal. However it is that you are, be truthful to who you are, and then you invite all of these people and experiences into your life that match that. Living your heaven on earth. That's how you do it. Law of attraction, like attracts like. Your inner world is your outer world. Be be you, and you attract all of that to you.
Wow. I love that. I love your passion. I love your light. It's addictive. I'm sure the audience will see it as well. And it's because I think deeply we all feel the way that you're expressing. You're a conduit. You're like you're able to express it in a way that a lot of people probably want to express, right? So it's I just thank you for that. And I also thank you for something you just mentioned about that whole situation you said where it was you were kind of like a tool for him to realize something. Like I think a lot of us when you were talking about the surgery thing,
Yeah.
because I think a lot of us we tend to go into victim role a lot when sometimes if we were to take a step back for a moment in certain situations in life and look at it like, okay, what are others around us learning from this experience? Like instead of being like, oh, why do I keep going through this? Or why am I? Because that just keeps us down and if we can sometimes just kind of step back and say, okay, when this happened, how did it affect all these other people? Or once you start looking at that, you see things different, right? You're almost like,
Yes.
okay, and you can move on quicker. You also go, okay, well, they're learning something right now. Instead of taking offense to things, instead of feeling of like being bullied, or say, well, they're learning something here. There's something they continue to do. I don't need to keep being that punching bag. But,
Yes.
what are they learning from that experience? And to forgive them and to let them continue their journey until they figure it out. So but it takes such a spiritual maturity to get to that place. So I do understand that, because some people might listen to that and say, I can't do that. But, I just wanted to mention,
Yes.
but yeah,
Yes. I'm 1 gazillion percent, because we see things with blinders on, and that was always my world, how I feel. Why did that happen? It's my fault. I'm unworthy, all these different things. And instead of the bigger bird's eye view picture of we are all of these moving parts, and everything is beautifully orchestrated like a concerto.
yeah,
And they're all, I mean, when you see how everything flows together, my entire life, I see it. If I wasn't bullied, I wouldn't have felt like I depended on everybody else in order to come to this point where I am now. I am not perfect. I get to the worthiness thing at times, but I can pull myself out way faster. And I can observe myself having the emotion and saying, no, Kristen, that's your programming. We have this program, and the point is to override the program. So things change. It changes. It changes. Having boundaries. I would love to go out with you. I'm really not feeling well. And it happens, I still have heart problems. So it happens in the drop of a hat. So I can get ready, go out the door and say, I'm so sorry, I'm so sick. If they're gonna judge me, that's on them. And
mhm,
that's okay, because that's their journey. It's not mine, and I don't need to take that. I used to take offense to it, but
mhm,
I don't take offense anymore. I don't need to. Not to say that I'm not perfect in that
yeah,
way, but I'm more mindful
Yes.
The point is, if you look at ourselves like a hurricane, we're the eye of the storm, that peaceful eye of the storm. No matter what goes on around you, you can find the peace that comes from inside of you, from the depths of your being. That's gold right
Mm-hmm.
there. That's gold. And to be untouched by whatever happens around you and to flow with it. You don't fight, you
The
flow.
flow.
You flow
Yeah.
with life.
Yeah.
Okay, I trust everything. I'm big with affirmations. Everything's working out for my highest good for all parties involved, and I trust. I let go. And the biggest word for me this year, surrender.
Ooh, I love it.
I'm not forcing anything. I would do sessions and be like, okay, they really want to hear from this person. Okay, please have them come in and, all that kind of stuff. I surrender and I trust whatever needs to come through comes through.
Mm-hmm.
And it has changed my readings. It has changed everything. It's changed my life because I'm not fighting it. And I can course correct faster now. So I don't stay in a pit. I recognize it and I have my humaning and different techniques that I do to be able to come out on the other side. You're
Mm-hmm.
not in this alone ever. Find your people. Be able to talk, express yourself. There's nothing wrong with expressing yourself. You're not nuts. You're not crazy. This life is way more magical. Trust your gut. Trust it. It knows that's you're channeling. You are channeling. It's like coming out.
That's
So
right.
trust it.
Always what I've done with my music. It's like that's channeling through the music. And I also like how you said, like flow with the river. Don't fight up the current. Just flow with the river. It makes life so much easier, and it gives you a different perspective that you may have not seen before. You had said that, you're not perfect. You said that in a few of that you were speaking about some of the stuff you were talking about, and you kept saying, but I'm not perfect. And you kept saying that. I do the same
Hmm.
thing. And the reason is because sometimes I mean, we're human. The first thing is,
Hmm.
if we're not human and we have no ego, we're not here. I really want to
Hmm.
be clear about that. There is a part of us that still has to be here. Maybe someday we evolve into more of a light being here and we no longer require the physical. I don't know. But if we're here and we're
Hmm.
human, there's part of us that is going to have human experience. And part of that human
Yes.
experience is when someone treats you poorly or someone cuts you off the road or something happens, you're going to have a reaction because that is a human trait. We have a reaction moment, right? Now,
Hmm.
it's in that reaction is where we need to have the work because how long do you hold on to that? What does it make you feel? Do you bask in that? Or do you go, okay, here's my reaction? Because the reaction is what's going to teach us what to do next. So the
Hmm.
reaction has to happen. So we're going to be reactive to something that hurts us. And then it's like, okay, but now how do I look at it? What's my perspective on this? Like what is it? That's where you have to kind of grab a hold of it. And that takes a spiritual maturity or some type of maturity to actually understand that. Otherwise, you just
Yes.
react without thinking and then boom and then boom and then boom and the rest of your day's bad and everybody around you is getting the effect of it. And so that's what you want to avoid. And that was what I was
Yes.
trying that's what I was trying to remember
The
because you kept saying,
spiral. You
yeah,
can spiral
I just
your way
liked
down.
yeah.
Yeah.
I liked how you said
Yeah.
you're not perfect because as you're saying your story and you're saying the things you've learned, you'll have these memories that come on and be like, "Oh, yeah, but Kristen, sometimes I have this moment and I am not perfect." You're just reminding people that yeah, we're all human still. It's just
Yes.
how to work with those reactions, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of the biggest things, so before my NDE a few years ago, I distinctly remember. So again, I have had the awareness of being two beings even before my near-death experience. We are the all-knowing spirit, our higher self, as well as the human egoic avatar that we are, this program that we chose to be. Um, I was having a conversation with my husband, and in my head, I was upset about something. And I'm like, don't say it. You're going to start an argument. Kristen, don't say it. Kristen, don't say it. Guess what? Kristen said it. And I watched myself say it, and I was like basking in the, like, and I was like, girl, you did it. Like my higher, it's not the devil and the angel, it's the higher self and your program. And I didn't override that program. And I was like, damn, girl, you did it. And I got it. It needed to come out for a reason. I needed to express my truth with my throat chakra. Could have done it in a better way, but
Right.
we navigated it, and there you go. Now, Kristen takes a breath.
Mm.
You breathe in and out longer than you normally do, which triggers the parasympathetic nervous system. And I always, always ask my higher self and source every morning, please come through me and help me navigate any situations that I need help with during the day. If I'm having a trouble expressing myself, if I'm around people that are lower vibrational and it's more challenging to me, if I have to have a discussion with someone, please come through me and guide me and help me. And a lot of times I'll go to open my mouth and my mouth closes and I breathe. And then sometimes I just kind of sit back and I don't even need to say a darn thing because a lot of times that speaks. And I was always an over explainer. That was my entire life. Okay, I'm calling in sick to work today because this. I'm just calling in sick. I'm sick. I can't come in. I
Right.
was an over explainer with everything. And now it's like, let them, let them think what they're going to think. Those that know my true heart and where I come from, they know. And
Wow.
I'm able to sit back. Again, not all the time. Sometimes it's like, damn, you did it. But I am able to course correct a lot faster.
So you work on
That's
it
the
and it's
difference.
by taking a breath before reacting. And it can be
Yes.
as simple as that because if you just add that extra piece in there and you get that to become more of your norm, then at least you're taking
Yes.
that extra uh, part of you that becomes more habitual over time, I would think. And then
Yes.
now it might help with how things go after that, right? So you mentioned a few times throughout the talk today that you have clients, you do work like that. Like, do you have a specific area people contact you, or like what is the work you're doing and how do people get in contact with you?
So I help people live their heaven on earth. So if you're having life situation issues, if you want to develop your spiritual gifts and abilities, I never do specific mediumship work. I always say, as long as you release expectations and allow whatever to come through organically, that's how I work. Let's see what comes through in your session. But typically the things that you're really looking for is what's coming through. So mediumship, life experiences, guidance in life with your guides coming forward to be able to help and navigate, as well as developing spiritual gifts and abilities. I do healing work as well, animal communication. Um, but I do have a website, infiniteheartandsoul.com, where you can
Hmm.
find me. So I am on YouTube. I'm wildly inconsistent, a little camera shy. I love these organic conversations because they really, as you can tell, I'm passionate about what I do. But when I have to sit there and stare at myself and talk, it's like, "Meh." So I like live better. But I'm trying to be better about having more of that communication as well. And I've posted recent videos because I'm all about living paranormally and how I'm washing the dishes and something comes through and this happens.
Hmm.
So I just hope I want to help people live their heaven on earth. I want them to see the light within themselves that I can see in them and that they're not alone when they miss their pets, when they miss their loved ones. They're right here and I can help you communicate with them. But you got to release expectations. Don't think, okay, I'm going to have a conversation with you and boom, there needs to be some kind of action in that. I'm very passionate at what I do. I never thought I would do this as a job, like something that I do.
Hmm.
Um, but it's so much fun connecting. I connect with the most amazing people. Um, and
It's
it's a blessing to
I was
do
gonna say
so.
it is so true. Ever since I've started the Soul Inspired, I keep saying I interview someone and go, oh my God, these are my people. Not that the people in my
My
life haven't
people.
been, not that the people in my life haven't been. A lot of people in my life,
Yeah.
I think everyone helps you get to each stage but then you get amongst certain people and you go, okay, I'm in a different place now. Like I'm in a different, like I'm
You're in a
doing
different
just in a
frequency.
different frequency and I'm doing different kind of
Yeah.
work now. And
Yes.
it feels good. And I get emotional. I'm someone who I have emotion, but I hold it very well. And I usually
Hmm.
feel it later. Like sometimes I've done a podcast, I've gone and sat down And my fiance will look at me and she'll be like, "Are you okay?" And I'll just start crying. I'm just like, I don't know
Yeah.
what's going on. It was just a lot, and I'm just taking it
Yeah.
in, and then I have to ground myself. And so I totally understand it, why you feel the way you feel with helping people.
Hmm.
It's something in you, and you had this experience. And I mean, anyone watching this or listening to this, if they don't see that, you got a lot of work because it's in you. It's very easy to see with you. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate you coming on and talking today.
Thank you.
The last question I ask everybody, and it can be as simple as you want to answer it, and
Hmm.
um it's why are we here? Why do we do this? If it's so beautiful over there, if it's so what are we here for? What's the purpose of this?
To experience, to not know who you are, and to discover who you are, if you choose to. It totally is up to you. It's up to you. Do you want to stay a muggle? Do you not want to awaken? That's totally okay. You're experiencing life and different things and what I can do. But do you awaken? We're here to experience.
Hmm.
Because when you're in spirit, you manifest like this. I mean, we're here to actually feel all of these feelings, to have loss, where in spirit you don't have loss,
Hmm.
and grieve and all of these things. So when I went to Source, it was a conversation about what happened, and you're doing wonderful. And it was like, I really did do wonderful. And Kristen thought I'm not good enough and worthy enough. But that's how we learn, we grow, we evolve. We're here to feel and to be. So when I'm upset about something, about my heart issue, I can have woe is me moments, I call them. And it's okay because I don't have them as much anymore. And I have that much more gratitude. We're here to experience. So, what do you want your experience to be? It's totally up to you.
Wow. This has been amazing. We'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for coming on and
Thank
talking
you.
today. I've had to like hold back my emotions the entire time. So a lot of people won't, I don't know, people who probably got used to the show can probably watch me through it and see it a little bit, but it's hard. People close to me really kind of know the way I work, but I really do appreciate you coming on. And
Thank you.
I always turn to the audience and say, please continue to like, share, and subscribe to The Soul Inspired. If there's someone that you think could grow in any way from hearing these stories, please make sure you share it with them, even if it's privately. You don't need to go and throw it all over your social media, but if you do, I appreciate that too, and we appreciate that. But even if it's just for someone that means something, and also I always say to people, if you want to leave comments, I love positive comments and any questions or sometimes the guests jump on there as well and talk. So, but I do appreciate all the audience, and I appreciate you, Kristen, for coming on and talking today.
Thank you so much.
So vision. So